So I've given them a heads up as to who I think you are. And we've known each other pretty close to 30 years.
It's been over 30 years.
Yeah,
now.
yeah. And like I said, Alan had a vision to create an internet radio station, which optimistic pessimist, I was like, oh really? And even though he had appeared on several podcasts with me as we interviewed different people, it was like, okay. And he's invited me to be a part of it, and my answer has always been,
how much are you going to pay? How much do I make?
No, it's not. It's usually no. I've got so many things.
I'm truly surprised that you do not have, that you are not the live version of Michael Keaton's Multiplicity movie.
Right.
You need that many people. So.
I give to you Mr. Alan Williams.
How much are you giving me for? It's like,
That, right?
Oh, yeah. I thought about whether to be silly or just, to be me, but I don't want to bore them to death. So, well, first of all, I want to thank Arrow. As I said, he and I have been friends for 30 years. He was I am going to tell the quick story about the morning team. So he and I met. The last on-air work I did was with him back in 1992 when he was with WAQS, or AQQ, 95 WQ. He allowed me to be the Billy to his John Boy. So... at the time, I had this stupid idea of grandeur that we were going to be able to do a morning team. I even had the name picked out right. It was called Straight and Arrow. Walk the straight and arrow path in the morning. So, needless to say, he couldn't go. He couldn't. Nobody in Charlotte was going to hire us with no experience. So, I'm going to eventually get him in the studio, and we're going to record one show for the station. So, okay, I'm asking you a very stupid question. How many of you know who the Monkees are? Hey, we're the Monkees. People say, nope. This one's parents did not raise her right. Okay, so I'm kidding. There are two things that I've loved since I was, radio and the Monkees. So the station is called Monkee Mania Radio. I share this dream with 6 other insane, nutty people around the country. And, oh, by the way, don't get mad. These are just notes, and they're big print so I can read them. And, the eyes go when you get to be my age. You'll be there eventually. But the genesis of it started back in 2019 after I wrapped up a 3-year run on a podcast, a Monkees podcast, with a very good friend of mine. One of the questions we talked about during that period is, why was there never a Monkees channel, even a limited edition Monkees channel on Sirius XM? Well, when you compare it to the Beatles channel, it's pretty simple. The Beatles have like 10 or 20 times more product than the Monkees. There's just not enough for it. So, but after the podcast ended, a couple of months, I revisited it and I said, the internet gives us a vehicle to be able to do this. And I figured, what the hell? I take a shot at it. If it doesn't work, I at least tried. Now, it's called Monkee Mania Radio now, or MMR for short. The original name for it, and I haven't shared this with there are only about a dozen people who really know this, and it was originally called Pleasant Valley Radio, after the Monkees song Pleasant Valley Sunday. And the logo was simply a green beanie like Mike Nesmith used to wear with a patch that said PVR. So late 2019, I start doing due diligence, and of course the first question you want to ask is, well, where am I going to put it? Where am I going to host it? And there are some great hosting companies, streaming companies out there. But because when you have ADHD squirrel like I do, there are some things that will cause you to go crazy. So there's one that stood out, and it's one we've been with since we're going to celebrate 2 years, 3 different anniversaries this year. July 4th is the 2-year anniversary of our very first test broadcast. July 21st is when we went soft opening, which means we basically had 7 different playlists, and we played the same playlist every Monday, different playlist every 2 years. So he was a part of that, which I'm thankful for. And then the actual go-live date is September the 12th, which coincides with the day that the Monkees television show debuted in '66. God, has it been that long? So I came across Live 365. And the reason I went with them is, number one, they are reasonable. But the biggest thing, they're the only streaming service that handles the licensing and the royalties on their end, because what is it? Is it every quarter now? Is it every quarter or once a year?
Every quarter.
Okay. Every quarter, every terrestrial radio station has to produce a list of every song that they played during that previous quarter. There is a equation that they have to figure out how much to cut a check for licensing and royalties to, and then mail it to Sound Exchange. Sound Exchange is the company that distributes the royalty money appropriately. Artists, producers, writers. So that's why they end up getting a check for $1.25 every quarter. So Live 365 pays Sound Exchange directly out of our monthly service fee. So, page 2. So once I got that taken care of, it basically, about the time I got ready, I said, okay, I'm going to use these guys, but I'm not going to sign up because the original plan was for me to pay for it out of my own pocket because I could afford it at the time. And the pandemic hit, and that gave me the opportunity to start building the library. Well, during that time, I had started contacting some people, including Arrow, to be a part of this. I mean, I've always wanted to work with him. You know, I had the opportunity. You guys have the same opportunity I did, is to steal his art. So now I had the opportunity to give it back to him. But of course, he couldn't do it because he was too busy, and I couldn't afford to pay him, which I would not have asked him to do it. He was kind enough to do some liners for the soft opening, for which I'm eternally grateful. But you know, I would not have asked a person of his talent and everything to join us if I could have paid him. So, all right. So then we hit the one roadblock that almost caused me to fold it up. 1998. I know you all don't remember that, but during the George W. Bush administration, there were a couple of websites out there like LimeWire and Napster, who were basically pirating music. They were allowing people to download it for free. So there was also I don't know, did they ever prove it to be fruition that there was another payola scandal, or was that just preemptive?
The payola scandal of the 1990s came from the song Closing Time from Semisonic.
Congress passed a law called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act of 1998. Number one, what that did was it shut down sites Napster and LimeWire because they weren't paying royalties. But it also set new stringent rules for terrestrial radio stations as to what they could play. That means you cannot play more than 4 songs by any one group or artist in a 3-hour time slot, which resets at the top of every hour. You can't play more than 3 songs in a row from any group or artist. You can't play more than 2 tracks from the same album. So, that was like brick wall, and I went, uh-oh. So then my rep at Live 365 saved the day. He tells me, I said, okay, here's what you can do. Because we're not for profit station, so you can reach out to the people who handle the broadcast rights and the publishing rights, explain what you're doing, and ask them if they would grant you a waiver that would allow you to circumvent that 4N3. We went to Rhino Records, who handles all the Monkees studio album catalog, and they said no, repeatedly. But I found out why. In Rhino's case, it's all about protecting the brand, the Monkees name. If they say, yes, we'll give you, because even though we were the only station playing Monkee-centric stuff, if we give it to you, we got to give it to you if you decide you want to do a Monkees radio station. So they want to protect the brand. So I understood that. During that time, as I'm trying to figure out what to do and talking to Rich about it, my rep, my angel enters the fray. I had this woman as part of our podcast. She has direct connections to both Mickey Dolenz and the late Michael Nesmith, plus she's had experiences with David and Peter. She actually works with Mickey on here as non-concert appearances. Anytime you see him at a Comic-Con, like Fanboy or Steel City or anything like that, chances are she'll be there. So she's there with him easily. So she got, through her connection, she got us a waiver from Mickey to play all of his solo stuff, a waiver from Michael Nesmith's oldest son, and who is trustee of his estate, to play one part of his catalog. The other is Sony, and I'm not dealing with them. So we played them sparingly. David, the trustee of David's estate, and 2 people that are involved in Peter's estate. So now, along with a record label in the UK called 7A Records, who is responsible for putting out 6 or 7 different Monkee solo project albums. So now we have all this solo stuff and extra stuff that we can play all we want. Then I find out that live concert stuff is not covered under DMCA. So we have live stuff. And then the idea of what it originally was called the 6 Degrees of Monkee Mania. You remember cutting that bumper for me? Yeah. 6 Degrees of Monkee Mania. So what that meant is we dealt with people who were, there are a number of people that appeared on the show, Bobby Sherman and Stan Freberg, who had records. So they're in the library. Songwriters. Yes.
With the 6 Degrees of the Monkees, I'm going to interrupt you there for a second. You're comparing that to the 6 Degrees of Separation
of Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon. Okay, I just wanted to make that clear so people.
I'm sorry. Those of you that have no idea what 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon is, thank goodness. But we've come to find out that everything comes, just like everything comes to Kevin Bacon, everything comes to the Monkees. So we began the songwriters, Boyce and Hart, King and Goffin, even Adam Schlesinger, Noel Gallagher and Peter Weller, Andy Partridge, Ben Gibbard of Death Cab for Cutie. All of these people have written songs for the Monkees. Neil Sedaka, Neil Diamond, how can I ever forget? But all that. So we started adding tracks from the songwriters, opening acts, Ike and Tina Turner, Hendrix, The Fifth Dimension, Weird Al Yankovic, The Grassroots, Gary Puckett and the Union Gap. And all these people are coming in. It's the most eclectic library you will ever see. And it would put even 95.7 and Dave Lingerfeld's library, and 95.7 The Ride, it would put them to shame. I tell people it's the only radio station that you can hear Monkees, Stan Freberg, the Manhattan Transfer, yes, there's a connection there, and Bowling for Soup. Now, we play one Bowling for Soup song, it's High School Never Ends, because it was written by Adam Schlesinger. And he wrote songs for and produced the last 2 Monkee albums in 2016 and 2018. So now we call it the music of the Monkeyverse. So you can see that it all encapsulates. We play stuff from artists that are fans of the Monkees. Glenn Tilbrook and Tilbrook and Difford of Squeeze. We play Squeeze because they're huge Monkees fans. So we now have enough to be able to start playing. So we have over 2,000 tracks in our library, which is unique. And so as this comes along, I start bringing people in. I have Jody, who is my business partner, and I will tell you point blank, and I will shout this. I'm glad you're recording this because I want everybody to hear this. MMR would not exist without Jody, not only because of her connections, but because of her business sense. Like, you can imagine me trying to take down all these songs and figure out how to pay Sound Exchange. Her connections, she started a Kickstarter program for us, raised over $12,000 to get us off the ground. That was flat amazing. So she did a lot. Plus, she has a lot of marketing ideas. She's the only one that didn't have any radio experience, but she's blossomed into a really good air personality. I don't use the term DJ because there's no such thing as anymore. I have Charles Rosenet, who lives in Massachusetts. He is our interview specialist. He has promoted Beatle conventions, Monkee conventions, paranormal conventions, and he has a lot of connections to people that he talks to. So we have an interview show with him. We have Scott Catton, who also lives in the Boston area. He is the only one that is currently working in radio. He works at an all-news station. So you can imagine what his delivery is like. So I call him our answer to Ted Baxter, but he is our ad hoc promotion guy. He is out there promoting the station at record conventions and all sort of record shows and all that. And we have Mick Lawless, who has a unique collectible and record store in Massachusetts. His is the most eclectic radio show you will ever hear. It's not as dirty as Stern's, but it's as varied as Stern. You never know what you're going to hear on that show. We have myself. I do a couple of things that I try, because I'm like him. I'm from the old AC top 40 presentation kind of thing, and I've learned to converse rather than hey, another 5. So the Ron Radio voice, as I call it. Boss jocking. Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, you and I grew up on it, remember? I mean, so Jack Gale was the big boss jock here in Charlotte when I was a little kid, and he was the one who inspired me to go into it. So, but and then we have backstory on our other guy who lives out in L.A. Back in 1986, when the Monkees came back, and they were popular because of MTV, The two men that were behind the creation decided they wanted to do it again. So they held nationwide tryouts. They picked 4 more guys and called them the New Monkees. They lasted 13 episodes, syndicated, and 1 album. But their bass player, Marty Ross, who's a great musician, if you've ever heard of a band called The Wigs, he was in that. He's on right before me. So we have a D-lister on a celebrity. So, but it's. I say, how many of you have heard of 95.7 The Ride? Yeah, okay. It is. That's why I say I love Dave Lingefeld, because it's as close to freeform radio as you'll get. That's what we are. My limited knowledge of radio, I try to keep a format. I try to get people to do the commercial breaks at 20 till and 20 after and 10 till. Doesn't always work that way, but and having to voice track everything is we've got everybody who voice tracks at different speed, different levels. So they upload it to the cloud, and then we go in and we start creating playlists. As far as the commercials go, we had a small conversation about this the other day. Being a not-for-profit station, we have to run a fair amount of commercials. So we have 2 commercial breaks an hour. We run 3.5 minutes every break. But what that does is it generates about $40 to $50 a month in ad revenue, which we get deducted from our. So we're net running about $40 to $60 a month, which is affordable. So they have a live option in Live 365, but it's like trying to do something live at an iHeart station. It just doesn't happen. So, but we create playlists, and then it's my job once they get the playlists in to schedule them into slots. Now, the other great thing about Live 365's software or hardware and the DMCA is they will tell us, if I try to schedule something, they will tell us if we're in violation. So if they tell me the Monkees have been played more than 4 times in 3 hours, I go back in there, I swap it out. I'll go in and edit the playlist, and I'll put in a live track or something. So then we just go. We program 12 new hours of music a day, and then repeat it from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. That way we don't have to do double duty on the voice tracking. So the other great thing is we're not governed by the FCC, so we can pretty much not only play what we want to or the artists that we want to, but we can say whatever we want to. But I try to tell people go easy on the F-bombs.
You can say it?
I think we've had one. I think I've used it once.
Wow.
I mean, I'll drop an S-bomb every now and then, but but if it comes to the point, like one of the things I do is on my show is I call it the fastest 2 hours in radio. Don't ask me why. I don't know where I came up with it, but I do something called What If Wednesday, where I have this alternate universe where the Monkees never went away, and I go through different years and pick songs that I think the guys could have recorded and had hits with. So one I did last time was Don't Let It In, because it's one of my favorite Styx songs when I like them. Because I can't stand them anymore because of what Tommy Shaw and James Young did to Dennis DeYoung, but that's another story for another class. And at the end, I said, as I got ready to say, oh, and by the way, James Young and Tommy Shaw, bleep you. So, but it's been a labor of love. There's been growing pains. We've had 3 people that have joined the staff that we got rid of. One was an endless self-promoter. He lived in Melbourne, Australia. And he didn't really promote the station. He promoted himself. So I got tired of that and bounced him. And then we had 2 other people connected with the largest Monkees podcast who unfortunately tried to be covert about getting me out. And when I drew the line in the sand, I said, no, you guys are done. And that hurt us a little bit because we were starting to pick up momentum. But we're getting back to where we are. So we're getting ready to celebrate 2 years. Because of people like him, it keeps the fire burning in me, and I'm going to make this last longer than our beats. That's an inside joke, right? So, and that's about it. So, if you guys got any questions you want to ask, fire away.
So yeah, I'm 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My first vinyl, believe it or not, ever was More of the Monkees.
God bless you.
So if you're looking for a younger audience who just hasn't been introduced to that type of music, what would be your next step into venturing into their music?
That's a good question. What we're trying to do is, and that will come with the increasing our footprint. Right now, we're averaging about 3,000 listeners a month, which for a niche, because let's be honest, you would agree with me. It's a niche station, right?
It is a niche station, but when, you stopped at 3,000. What people don't understand, I mean, even when I was with Our Beats, it was paid by the listeners. In other words, if we had 1 million listeners, we had to pay for those 1 million listeners. That's part of the royalty fees. And so I mean, 3,000 to me is, if you're happy with and comfortable with that, I love that number because somewhere along the line they're going to come knocking on your door asking for more money.
Yeah, well, it's like I say. You told me one time, do you have one listener? Then you're a success.
That's right.
So, but the idea is the great thing about the Monkees is it's family. You have people like myself who was an original, I'm old enough to be an original maniac. But you have all these people, you have the second generation that, like my podcast partner Al, who discovered the reruns in the 70s. You have the MTV generation, which is the third generation when they came back in '86. Then you have the 90s, and you have families that share this music with people. It's great pop music. I don't care how you cut it. It's great pop music. It's Michael Nesmith was the godfather, whether people will admit it or not, of country rock. Before the Flying Burrito Brothers and the Eagles, there was Nez. That's another story for another time, but he's the godfather, and it's just great music that they swiped, Smash Mouth covered I'm a Believer for Shrek. But as our audience grows, families, we get families, and they introduce their kids to it, and their kids do it, their kids fall in love with it, and then down there, we've got 4 generations of fans right now, but it's basically getting to them, and we have not done a lot of advertising of the station per se. We have a Facebook group page. We have a website that really is not a website. It's a link off of Jody's main page. But our goal for year 3 is, I'm going to use a very old analogy to start out with. We started out like a 40s Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland movie that said, "Hey guys, let's put a show on in the barn." And that's how we were. When we moved into our second year, as we got tighter and gained more experience, I called us off Broadway. Our next step is to go off Broadway, and the way we do that is we're going to advertise more. You'll eventually see ads on Facebook, targeted ads, and if we go to that, then we can tighten up even more, and then we can move to the big great white way, as it were. So.
We talked a little bit about 95.7. Now, to a listener that'll pick this up that lives in Seattle, Washington, they're not going to know anything what we're talking about.
That's true.
So as the program director and creator of Monkee Mania Radio, do you even think about localism, or is it always it's like don't mention the town that you're in unless it has something to do with the physicality of what you're trying to attempt?
Well, since you've had the voice track. Voice track, if you're in a specific market, you're targeting that. But since we're nationwide, we have to be more generic. We are bad on promoting each other's shows, but we go out of our way to make sure that if Mickey's somewhere, that we promote that. I do it. I'm still stuck in that mode. I will promote the second hour. We all do 2-hour shows, so the second hour I will promote the guy coming up next to me. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I will promote the weekend stuff because weekends are a little slack right now. And what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up running all 6 of us 7 days a week. Should I really tell them what my original plan was?
Which was?
To have people like you guys work the weekends. Right. It would be, it's unpaid and everything, but it would have given you an opportunity to put on your resume, hey, I was a weekend jock. I did 2 to 4 Saturdays and Sundays on Monkee Mania Radio, internet station Monkee Mania Radio.
But let's go reality there, because I think you and I had that conversation many times, and I may have been that pessimist that said, "Are you sure?" Because if you are, one of the toughest things about getting into broadcasting is finding that commitment to always be there. Right now, it's in a mode of, well, if I'm in the mood for it, I'll make the drive. But if I'm not in the mood for it, I'm not even going to walk 12 feet into my studio at home. I'm just going to hang out. And that's one of the things that I think I stayed back on that. We're going, no, you got. I can send you people who understand what's going on, that can give you that commitment, because I don't want them to hurt you and your product.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand. And what I originally thought about it was, I wasn't sure how the class size was, so it would have been on a rotating basis. 3 months with a couple of people at your recommendation, another couple of people for another 3 months to give them. Because one of the things that I did this the hard way. I was in the business for 6 years. I had wanted to go to the old Carolina School of Broadcasting, which was owned by WBT's old parent company, Jefferson Pilot, but my parents wouldn't do it. So I moved to Flint. I spent all but 10 years of my life here in Charlotte area. I moved to Michigan for the other 2 times. So I moved to Flint, Michigan in 1981, and I did it the hard way. I interned at in the music library at a 5,000-watt AM station, WTRX. And it scared me when I found out I knew more about oldies than the consultant. So I had one full-time gig. It was overnights at a 5,000 daylight, 250-watt overnight, which is what I was doing. But they had me on air 40 hours a week. And it was like I had 2 8-hour shifts. And my body was not, I was 23. My body wasn't used to it. And, of course, I don't think I've ever told anybody this. I fell asleep on the air twice.
Oh, yeah, I've done that.
And it's funny, the only people that were listening, I thought the only people that were listening to me were at the emergency ward of the local hospital, because 250 watts, you don't get out of the building pretty much. And they called the cops. They did. The police came to the station twice. Second time, the PD said, "Look, I'm sorry, Alan, we can't keep doing this." So, but yeah, 91 or 87, I moved back to Charlotte. In 91, I got my dream gig. I spent a year and a half doing weekends on WBT when they still played music. And I was stupid and got shown the door there, but I was like 23 going on, or I was like 31 going on 6. So.
But they need to understand that being stupid is part of the game.
Yes.
Everybody has a stupid story. I mean, even as a musician, being at the restaurant and things like that. I mean, we all do stupid things, and because I believe that broadcasters, because we're creative, we take chances. We live on the edge. We say, yeah, I'll do it. Let's do it, and then you get caught. It's like, oh, I did it. Oh, yeah. Damn.
Turn in your door key. So, but and I was out of the business for 20 years until he comes back. Well, we'd been. As I said, the last thing I did was when he was doing mornings for a while. And then I was away from it for 20 years. In 2012, I get a call from him. I need your voice. I went, okay. So that launched like a 3-year thing of him teaching me to be a competent voice artist. And then that ended because no fault of my own, because somebody else did something at another station to where Clear Channel made a change. So, but then I started the podcast, and now I'm here.
Is Monkee Mania, is it still a fantasy to you, or have you gone to the next level, which is commitment?
You see a ring on his finger? No, I'm kidding. I am not going to lie. I have never had projects that made it to fruition until the last 6 years of my life. I have a business that I do music bingo shows at bars, restaurants, and breweries. I've been able to do that for 5 years now, and been able to give the corporate world the big, the stone cold salute. And that was the first one. And I am committed to this for as long as it takes to make it longer than our beats. But I'm committed to take this as far and as long as we can do it. The faces may change, the names may change, but I'll be in it I'm in it until Jody says we can't do this anymore, because she's the one that's got the purse strings.
How dedicated are you to the analytics? Are you addicted to them? Because I mean, even though I've been doing this ratings my entire life, basically since 1979, it's always, what are the numbers? What are the numbers? What are the numbers?
Numbers? We don't need no stinking numbers. Let me clarify that. One of the guys that was a very great creative mind when it came to creating visual images. He's a graphic artist, but it was, again, tried to get me out. He used to bombard our group chat on Facebook with numbers every day. I don't look at the daily numbers. Now, the daily numbers now are up a little bit. Most of the 6 of us average double-digit listeners every show from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. What I look at is they allow us to see on our dashboard, they allow us to see how many people are listening live and how many people we've had listen in the last 24 hours. That's the one I take a look at, although I have to question I have to question whether the numbers they're saying are real or not, because sometimes they seem a little low. Yeah. But that's why I say that's why I'm taking it average. That's why I say it averages out to about 3,000 listeners a month.
So what about those time periods? Because I mean, they're just getting started in podcasting as well as broadcasting, and hopefully they'll be inspired to do their own video broadcasting as well. But there's that one zone that we don't like going into, and that is what I call the post-production blues. And because when you know that you sunk your soul into that performance, but the numbers weren't there, and that to me, I believe so deeply that's where people walk away from being what it is that I believe that they were called to do.
Oh yeah. I mean, I personally, our biggest numbers are between 10 and 2. Our 2 shows. My friend Joe, my partner Jody, and we have the Unca Duck Show, which is a buddy of mine in Tennessee his name is Doug Hubler. Story behind it is he was dating a woman, had a little child, and she wanted the child to call him Uncle Doug. Couldn't pronounce it, he said Unca Duck. So that's what sticks. He calls his listeners ducklings. He is his own personality. But we're starting the 2 to 4 shift, which is Marty, our new Monkee, and me, which is 4 to 6. They're starting to pick up. We actually, now I will tell you, you would not believe where the listener that spends the most time listening to this station is.
Where they're located at?
Yeah.
I know the answer for my own. So, and it's never where I am. It's mine is in California. Where's yours?
Brussels, Belgium.
Of course. Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me. Yeah. As I talked about Live 365, Live 365 only goes to the U.S., the U.K., and Canada. And then I found that the U.K. does not include Ireland proper. Northern Ireland, yes. Ireland. So we have fans in Japan. We have fans in Australia, New Zealand, Europe. That's not in the UK. So we found another partner that allows us to go more worldwide. So I make sure that I plug all of them, because we've had a couple of people in Australia say, "Come on, Alan, you're not promoting the international stuff." So now every break I do is every break sending it to commercials goes streaming on the Live 365 app through your Roku TV and worldwide via streama.com and the Simple Radio app. We are MMR.
And that's really super important, because I think we talked about this last week about the different platforms that you need to be on. You need to say yes to everything. But the thing is, though, is that when you team up with a broadcast company, the bigger guys and things like that, they're going to try to shut you down. And so that when you start now and you get things going, you've got to be able to go into that talk, and you've got to be able to protect what you've got, basically. And so because you can't sell out yourself, because you're building this platform, you're getting your own numbers, you're developing this system of success. But if you walk into a company and they say, "We like what you're doing, but you got to sign over your rights to us, because everything that you do belongs to us from this day forward," and it's like, no, we've got to protect it.
I just had a flashback.
Okay.
I just had a flashback for you. We know that. But yeah, I mean, it is our labor of love, and I have to be careful, because I pissed Jody off when I said that I'm the owner, and I'm not really. I mean, she's the co-owner, she's the business side, I'm the production side. So, but it has allowed me the opportunity to be creative. I don't, that's why I came up. I do a 2 for Tuesday, which we can do, because mostly it's solo stuff. So, but I do the What If Wednesday, and I have a ball doing it. I mean, it's like, it's our homage to Casey Kasem.
So let's put this in a level of play here that includes this classroom. How important is learning Adobe Audition or any editing program?
Know it, learn it, live it. I use 1.5. The stuff I sent you recently, the imaging. I've taken my first shot at imaging, and the imaging stuff that I sent you, I did on 3. because it's a lot easier. 3 has some great stuff on it. I promise. By the way, it will not work. You better make sure you have Windows 10. It doesn't work on 11. Although I understand there might be a workaround for 1.5. So I'm studying it to see because I have a 1-year-old laptop that has like 16 gig of memory. I mean, it's like faster than a speeding bullet.
And they need to understand that what they're learning on is the cream of the crop. They are learning on the absolute best. But when you get out there on your own and you get into a company, you may not have the cream of the crop. But I love the idea that you're learning on the absolute best of Adobe Audition. Mm-hmm. But not every company is going to provide that for you. But you can't let that be your stepping stone. What you got to do is you've got to make sure that you have the full path and not just a rock. You know what I mean? To step on. You've got to make sure that you say, I got this. Just remind yourself, I got this.
And avoid the quicksand. But anybody else want to just? He's talking under his Buzz City mask. Is this guy done yet? I mean, come on. No.
Well, where can people go to find out more about Monkee Mania and find out more about your experiences as you continue to grow into your 3rd year?
You can check out our Facebook group page. It is Monkee Mania Radio. It's free to join. We don't bite much. If you'd like to listen to us on a laptop or computer or a tablet, you can go to live365.com, click on their listen button, and type in Monkee, Monkee. If you'd like to do it on your phone, Live365 and Simple Radio apps are free. Download them, and then just again search Monkee. We found out the reason we call it Monkee. The reason we're using Monkee Mania instead of the S will get us in trouble with Rhino. Oh. So, yeah. So, but it has been it's been a journey. I don't like to toot my own horn. I try not to toot my own horn. I'm very happy that I didn't give up, because when I found out about DMCA, man, it was like Thor's hammer caught me right in the gut. So.
Let me ask you one final question. If you had not taken the leap of faith, what would you be doing right now?
Dr. Music. That would the music bingo thing would be the only thing I'd be doing. Yeah. I mean, I can't carry a podcast on my own. I know that you have that gift to be able to do a podcast on you. You are an interviewer like none other.
It's an ego.
I know. But
it's all ego.
I know, but I just no eagle hangers maybe, but no ego. So, but I didn't give myself a choice. I said, you're gonna do this. You've got to try. And so far, I'm still floating above water. I got a dozen people listening to me every day between 4 and 6, and that's why I say, I couldn't do. I tell me I couldn't do it without you. I wouldn't want to, but and one of the things we do is I always am. You know how the Monkees at the end of the show, the song is always go love and understanding. Mm-hmm. I always close it. You always close out by saying keep loving and keep loving those pets. Mine is it's a monkey's world. We just share love and understanding in it.
Actually, what's really interesting is that Keep Smiling, Keep Loving Those Pets was something that I started in Billings. But these guys have seen some of the interviews. The way that I wrap things up now be the same way I'm going to wrap it up with you, okay?
All right, well, wait a minute. Can I say one more thing to these guys?
Okay, one more time.
Okay. I want you guys, you have the drive and the desire by being here and learning from one of the best. But you also know how tough it is. I mean, it is all conglomerates for the most part, and they're not looking at you, they're listening for something. Don't let that discourage you. That was one of the things that discouraged me, was sending out samples and right and left and not hearing anything. If you want to do it bad enough, you'll find a way. Don't let no mean no. It just means not here. I mean, there's still, and like say, if do your own podcast, that's a way to get noticed. Worst comes to worst, you start your own radio station. If you but if you start a Monkees radio station, I'm coming for you. So, no, I'm kidding. So, all right, thank you for allowing me that last little diatribe.
Absolutely,
there.
This is the way we wrap things up now. Alan, please come back to the show anytime in the future. You know the door is always going to be open for you.
Yeah, but the only problem is with the way I walk, I'm liable to run into it.
I love it, though. All right, man. You be brilliant, all right?
Arrow, Alan Straight and Arrow.
There you go, buddy.
2024.